Okay, and now we'll go back to the order, and we're going to start with creating better housing for students. This was proposed by Kat. Kat, do you want to speak? Or was it just-
Hi guys, we're going a bit less into operational stuff and more about the kind of things that we should be campaigning on. So as I'm sure we all know, there's not a lot of halls and that kind of accommodation that go around the UHI. There are some in pockets here and there, but not a lot. Whilst most students live, or most of our younger students I should say, live with their parents or live with family and come from their own catchment area, I think one reality that we need to start facing up to is that there is a vast population of our students that are living in rented accommodation, they're living in uni halls, and let's face it, like private sector accommodation and sometimes even university accommodation can be a bit crap at points. And we went to some workshops on this, and I'm sure Scotty will agree that sometimes what happens with student housing really needs to be addressed, and there's lots of things that NUS are doing. They're conducting a mass piece of research on this. Basically what this motion is saying is that we need to be really actively working on housing for students, making sure that our students have, not to steal, borrow, I should say, what NUS have called their research, they need to have homes fit for study. They need to have places where they can live that really do work to the best advantage of their university life and make sure that they are comfortable and that they're living in good conditions, as I'm sure we would all like to not live in squalor. So please vote for this motion.
Cheers, Kat. Have we got any points of clarification? And have we got anyone who wants to speak against it at this point?
Speech against this one.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, we do actually have an amendment to this one. So we'll go to the amendment first. Rachel, when we've got an amendment, I think if Rachel reads it out, and then we'll go through my little handy diagram, which I played through. So we have an amendment to adapt UHISA Beliefs 3 to these lists are not always checked for suitability and reliability, and to remove all of UHISA results 1 to 3 and insert 1. Survey each academic partner about current support and infrastructure for housing support. 2. To challenge academic partners that appear to be substandard. 3. Encourage sharing of best practice that's been uncovered. 4. To work with Sinead Wiley, the NUS Scotland Community Campaign Convener, to develop a strategy with the university to continue enhancement on this issue. Thank you. Have we got someone who wants to speak in favour of that amendment?
Okay. My kind of issue was in creating a housing officer. At the moment we have a lot of positions on our executive and we don't have them all fulfilled. So I'm not sure how beneficial this would be to students, because we cannot guarantee that the position would be fulfilled, that somebody would actually take up that position. And I think there would be a bit of difficulty with giving them the same rights as subject network student officers, because to me it's a different type of role that they would be performing. So then that would kind of negate the other result. So then to be more kind of proactive and so that we can definitely do something about this, if we were to survey the academic partners, we would know where we stood in the current situation. It wouldn't be down to one officer who has experience of their campus and would have difficulty speaking to other students. We would then be challenging any areas that we found that were substandard or not as high level as other partners felt the region. To sharing best practice, it's encouraging UHI to improve the facilities and the support that it offers by things that they're already doing. So it means that what we're suggesting is definitely possible because there's already somebody doing it. And another thing to note is that there's already work being done on this by NUS Scotland through their communities campaigns, and I think we should be tapping into that and supporting them, and there's a lot of support that they can give us to develop something more long-term with the university.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got any points of clarification. This is still on the amendment rather than the overall motion. Yeah, Elsa, you had
just want to ask a question on that. So, in the amendment, I assume you did the amendment.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick right? Were you meaning for there, therefore, not to be a special officer for it, but for UHISA as a whole to just be showing interest in this as a subject? And
Yes, I would like to remove resolves 1 to 3 and insert my 4 resolves.
so it's just that UHISA should generally show more interest.
Yeah. Yep.
The change to UHISA believes number 3. What was it again? Sorry.
Well, to take you believe that the lists are not always checked for suitability and reliability. And that was to remove that one. Is that what? It was to remove believes 3. And change that to these lists are not always checked for suitability and reliability.
Okay.
Okay. Have we got any more points of clarification?
Yeah. Sorry, can I ask? Can you repeat number 4, please?
The 4 different resolves.
Yeah, just the last one.
Yep. To work with Sinead Wiley, who is the NUS Scotland's Communities Campaign convener, to develop a strategy with the university to continue enhancement on this issue.
Can I clarify, because does that not leave a named individual in our constitution rather than a position?
We could remove. This wouldn't go into our constitution. This would go into our policy on how we're going to move forward.
Okay.
Any more points of clarification? Okay, we've got anyone who wants to.
Oh, hi. Sorry.
Hi, Benny.
You've got down that this person, a housing officer, will have the same rights as a subject network student officer. Does that mean it's the motion is to have it as a paid position, the same as the SNSOs?
I think that's actually a point of clarification on the overall motion. At the moment, we're just looking at, I think what Rachel's proposing here is actually to remove the 3 resolves that are down listed here and actually to put in 4 different ones. So I
clarify the original point.
Sorry?
Can I clarify the original point just so everyone feels they can make a thorough decision on that?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's best to do that now or when we return to the motion. But yeah, if you want to
return to the motion, then
if you want to throw that in. Yeah.
No, I don't think when I wrote this it was envisioned to be like a paid role. I think it was envisioned to not even necessarily be elected, but to be someone who knew about housing, who could talk about housing a lot better than some of us should be able to in terms of housing law, because I think with the kind of stuff we normally work on, we can all definitely talk about that, but I think when it comes to housing, we need to know that the person talking about that has the expertise, because there is a lot of laws and rights that students miss out on because they don't know they're there. For instance, if your landlord charges you anything other than your rent and a refundable deposit, which must be refundable and must be held with a safety deposit scheme, then you can totally take them to court for it. And loads of students don't know that, and they're robbed out of millions of pounds across the country every year because they don't know that they can do that. And it's very easy to do, to take someone to small claims court for your rent that they've overcharged you for fees.
Does that help your point, Bernie?
Yes, thanks.
Cheers. Okay, anything else? Any other points of clarification? Okay, right, so do we have a speech against the amendment?
So I don't think the amendment is bad. I should say that firstly. I think we're both trying to tackle the same issue coming from different places. But I think that there's a couple of issues with this. One is that housing you cannot fix in a year. So by having a named person such as Sinead Wiley, or even a named role, it kind of limits our ability to work with outside people. And what happens if next year they decide all VP communities at NUS is crap, they're voluntary, let's get rid of them? What do we do in that situation? I don't think that allows for that. I also think that as I was explaining, a housing officer would have the expertise to be able to take our concerns forward, and also to let students know about concerns that they should have, but they're not aware of that they should be concerns. So yeah, I don't think that the amendment is the best way forward, and I could obviously say this is quite a biased opinion, so take that with a pinch of salt if you may. And also the point to remove UHISA believes 3, that the lists are often populated by beds and breakfasts or landlords, which may be unreliable. I think basically the amendment says the same thing. And I think that if we say, oh, they might not always be satisfactory, I can't remember the actual wording, but I think that would actually deny the fact that actually our colleges are vastly promoting bed and breakfasts as a suitable place for students to live during their time of study, and that's just not okay. Like, these bed and breakfasts, most of the time, like, you don't even get like an ensuite or anything like that. Like, you don't have a bathroom that's your own, you don't have a space that's your own, you don't have a living room that you can call your own. Like, living in a bed and breakfast is not suitable for university, and I think it's very clear that we deem that with this motion to be not acceptable as a place or a home that is fit for study.
Cheers, Kat. Just one point, Rachel, who's proposed this, has said that obviously with reference to Sinead as an individual, we can remove that in terms of the amendment and just vote on the terms of actually referring to her in her communities convener role, rather than actually having a named person within the motion. Do we have someone else who wants to speak in favour of this?
Well, there's more sort of more against. I think that this is an issue that needs to be tackled, but I don't think as UHISA, I think we're punching above our weight in a way and going forward with that motion. I mean, you won't think all we have an X. I mean, there's other roles I want to hate, but I just can't bother creating executive roles when I can't even fill the ones I've got already.
I mean, we might want to come back to that when we're looking at the motion as a whole, because I think both of them are, we're going to go for another speech in favour first, and then a speech against, and then do the amendment first and the motion overall. So I might come back to you on that point. Have we got anyone else who wants to speak in favour?
The amendment.
Oh, we're still on the amendment.
Yeah, just check. I'm very briefly, sorry.
Yeah.
That's a camera, isn't it? Did I just knock out? So you be careful now. I think in terms of the amendment, I think there's a motion later that talks about student representatives and whatever, and I think we have really some very very key criteria we need for this housing officer, and we're looking for something very specific. But we're not going to pay the person, but they're not. They're going to be a representative, because then, I mean, this kind of ties into another motion, but I think that we might be difficult to find the person we need for a start, and I think that to have more of a generalized strategy, or to a more generalized approach to it, and nothing quite so specific, that will be reliant on our end by finding the right person for the job. That might actually, we could pass the motion and not find a person with the qualifications who's willing to do this. This sort of thing that I would envision someone would normally get as paid for as a full-time or a part-time job, and I'm worried that we won't actually be able to fulfill the commitments of being able to get this person and then support them effectively. And I think that by having a more generalized approach, that we could in future expand into getting a housing officer after doing more research into it, might be a safer option and possibly a more productive option. That's all I'm going to say.
Cheers, Jane. Does anybody want to speak against the amendment? A final one, hopefully. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's just a couple of points I want to pick up from that last speech. Like, in terms of qualifications that you're talking about, we're not talking about someone who has like PhD in housing. Like, that's kind of not what we're talking about. It's someone who can evidence that they have enough knowledge to be able to talk about housing competently. I don't think it would be like a job, because it would be working with UHISA to make sure that we were doing our jobs. And if we're gonna, I don't think that it's something that would be paid somewhere else. I mean, like, there's lots of people who do much harder jobs that do them voluntarily, and even within UHISA, like, we have a women's officer, an LGBT officer, and that person has to be knowledgeable about the area that they're working with. They have to be knowledgeable about LGBT people. They have to be knowledgeable about women. In fact, I'm not even sure if we have an LGBT officer, so scrap that. But they have, like, if a women's officer has to know about women's issues, they have to know both sides of that argument. So I don't see that it would be much different from that. And also, like, in your point of having a more generalised officer, like, I don't know what you could include with someone who worked on housing, like, as a more general role.
Or generalised approach, not an officer.
Sorry?
Or generalised approach, not an officer.
Yeah, I don't see a generalised approach as working. I think we've played the safe option like since we started with UHISA, and now I think we need to start being a bit more radical. And Rachel was saying like she's even had someone say to her, "So students aren't radical enough," and I totally agree with that. And I think that student council is where we start to become more radical and to say, no, let's do something a bit dramatic, because that's how we move forward in the university. Thanks.
Okay, cheers. Right, okay, unless there's anyone who else is dying to have another round of speeches to say in favour of the amendment or not, then we're going to go to the vote on it. So again, this is we're still working on the amendment, so you've heard the arguments there. We're not actually on the motion overall. We've heard the arguments there for
I'm going to try and fix this camera.
That's brilliant saying my OCD. I was just about to open for it.
That's retro. That's radical.
Too much.
Oh, I feel like I should.
Is that straight?
Kind of close.
There we go.
No.
There we go.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment, and remember that this isn't the motion as a whole, but it does fundamentally change this motion. It keeps the ethos, but it does change the manner in which UHISA wants to go about this. So, can I see all those in favour of the amendment?
Says on this side. On BC, could you put your hands straight up in favour of the amendment? 5 on BC.
14.
14.
So that's 14 in favour of the amendment. Can I see those against the amendment, please?
Six on this side. 2 on BC.
15.
15.
Okay, 15 against, and those abstaining from voting on the amendment.
1 on BC, 1 on the room. 2.
Okay, 2. Okay, so in that case we have 15 people who voted against the amendment, so the amendment does not pass and it will not remain. So we're going to go back to the motion now. We'll actually, because the amendment was rejected, we're going to be looking at what is written here, and this is what we're about to vote on now. Okay, parts, yeah. Do we have any parts for this?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The housing officer, or the role of it, are they kind of doing background checks on the lists that are available, or are they trying to have more kind of set accommodation?
That would be quite unreasonable. I think what it is it would be about working with UHISA and as an extension from the University of Shelter Scotland. It would be like as much as they felt they could put forward to it, and we say that to all our officers.
Yeah.
So if that's like 2 hours a week, if it's like 7 hours a week, whatever. But like what we'd like to see from this is like a clear direction that officer would be advising us on with proper knowledge to say like, okay, so all of these lists are populated, so can UHI or this college work together to make sure that list has proper checks from staff to make sure that it's suitable for students.
Right, that's
So it's not actually them going out and creating the revolution on their own.
Can I ask for a clarification?
Yep.
Is that alright? Can I ask for a clarification?
Yeah, sorry.
Just what are the rights that are referred to? You know, it says they will have rights matching that of SNSOs.
Yep.
What's that mean? What are those rights?
They can go to executive committee, but they don't have voting rights. So like on policy outside, like on just general day-to-day policy and stuff
So
like
it's
that.
in terms of a representative. 'Cause it would be
Yeah, that's what I just wanted.
Yeah.
The SNSOs also get an honorary payment from the university as well.
But I wouldn't say that that's part of their rights.
Well, they're entitled to their payment because that's part of their role. Is
Okay, so
So-
if we change that to the voting rights matching of the subject language student officers, would that work?
it's not a question just for me.
So we're formally looking at that in terms of part to amend that original motion. Okay, so the proposal there then, because we're going to do parts in this one as well, this is so much fun. We're going to have, we're looking at amending it to, they will have voting rights matching of subject network student officers, and that's in the first UHISA resolves.
Can I just say that by my understanding, any student, any ordinary member of UHISA can attend the UHISA exec meetings anyway. So actually, if you're taking away the payment that the SNSOs get, they don't have rights matching the SNSOs, they just have rights matching the fact they're an ordinary member in the first place.
Yeah, I think the difference comes with like the formalisation as like a person to go to.
Instead of rights, do you maybe mean recognition or
Yeah.
something more along those lines, the kind of presence of an SNSO?
So we're going to look to amend that now to they will have recognition matching of subject network student officers. Is that the proposition? Yep. Okay, they will have recognition matching. Can I have those in favour of amending that? Oh. Can someone tell me if I'm doing this wrong, by the way? It's always confusing.
Say it on VC.
26.
Okay, so 26. And have we got any against the amendment of that? No, I don't see any against. So we will, right. Yeah, abstention.
1, 2,
One behind you.
2. Oh, sorry, 3.
DC.
Oh, 4. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to go back to the motion now, and that particular part is passed in terms of they will have recognition matching of subject network student officers in the first UHISA results. So I think we're ready to go for the vote on the overall motion. Is that right? Does that sound familiar? Okay, all those in favour of the emotion as emotion.
Sorry,
all those in favour of a motion, put your hands up.
Sorry, Lydia. We're going to have another
Yeah.
round of speeches
Yeah.
on.
Okay. Do you want
on
someone
the
to
full
speak? Yeah. Do you want another one?
Yeah.
People want another round on the overall motion. Okay. Can we have someone speaking in favour of the motion before we go to vote?
We're going to lose connection in a minute because we're going to go at one.
Yeah.
We said we would split for lunch in 3 minutes, so these might disconnect and reconnect at half 1.
So can we just do like a really short speech? Okay. No one's coming up with favour. Oh, due to favour. Right, you got 45 seconds actually.
Right, people, I would just say that this is actually a really good idea. Please vote for it. I've been that student who was made homeless by a very, very bad private landlady. And I think taking into account we've had an amendment, we've had parts, I would just urge you to vote for it. I think it's really important that our students get the best housing possible to make this a legitimate university experience. Thank you.
That wasn't me. That's not me as chair trying to influence you. It's just I like it when people get up and do things like that. Have we got anyone who wants to speak again for 45 seconds? Okay. I'll say Scotty because you did actually. Which one wants to go first?
Yeah. Well, I'll sit here same time. I think that it's not the right thing for us to do. I think that maybe yes, there's something we can do, but not this. I think maybe just a survey or a question there, and then we present that to NUS and further work on that. But I don't think that if we say rated officer, people are going to get confused what that means and think that that officer is going to do more than they actually knew, and you're going to have students disappointed with experiences that they're going to be getting less of service than they expect from an officer.
Thank you very much. Does anybody want to hear another round of for and against before we go to the vote?
We're going to get cut off with people on BC, and that'll reduce coracy.
Yeah, okay, in that case, I think can we just do the vote? Can we go straight to the vote? Is everyone happy with that in terms of making sure everyone's able to participate? Okay, can I have all those in favour of the motion?
Can you run through the favour and against on VC first?
Okay, VC favour.
In favour on VC? On favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 on VC.
Okay, VC against, please.
1.
And abstaining on VC, please.
1.
2.
Who? Who's the second one?
Lewis.
Okay, sorry, Lewis.
Okay, so we've got 2 there. Okay, cheers. If you get cut off, don't panic. You're not missing anything. Okay, everyone in the room who's in favour, please. Okay.
9 on this side.
20.
So is that 20 with the VC as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
20 total.
total.
Okay, and against in the room, please.
10.
And abstaining in the room, please. 1. Okay, so motion passes as written with the exception of the amendment there on recognition.